Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Parks, and I'm the president of Parks Associates, and I'm excited today to introduce Oisin Hanrahan, the CEO and founder of Handy. Thank you for joining us today, Oisin. We're excited to talk to you about the connected home and what you've been seeing in the past 6 months. So Oisin is the founder of Handy Technologies in 2012, and I believe did that while you were at Harvard Business School, and then really led that to be a leader in on-demand home services, which Handy was then acquired by Angie's List in October of 2018. So congratulations on that acquisition. And let's start and see if you can give us a quick background on Handy and a little bit about some of the home services that you're offering, and then we can talk about the past 6 or 9 months and the impact you've seen.
Sure. Thanks so much. Great to talk to you today. So we started Handy about 8 years ago to change how people buy services. So you think about every service people need inside their home, from a handyman to a cleaner, a carpenter, a plumber, and we just wanted to make it incredibly easy to book those services. So you think about how hard it is to find someone, figure out if you can trust them, get them to show up on time, negotiate a price. Sometimes they'll only take cash instead of check or credit card. And we just wanted to make it so that it was as easy to buy services as it is to buy a book. And you think about all the things that go into that. It means making sure that we vet our professionals, making sure that we can arrange pricing, take payment online, and dispatch someone who will show up on time and do a great job. So we built out that business for about 6 years. We've completed millions and millions of transactions across the US, the UK, and Canada. And then, as you said, at the end of 2018, we sold the business to Angie Home Services. And the thinking there was, we had a great transactional business model where you could press a button and book a service. Angie Home Services has a great connect with a pro model where you can press a button and have a pro call you and talk to them offline. You put those two models together and you can serve ever more customers. And that's really the thinking behind the merger. And that's the mission we're on today. It's to figure out how to deliver every service to every home while we do that in a myriad of different ways.
Great. Well, and tell me a little bit about the past 6 to 9 months and where you have seen maybe some of the biggest challenges with Handy.
Great. So the last 6 months has obviously been a roller coaster ride. I mean, you think about the first couple of weeks of lockdown, and everything just stopped, right? So it was back in February, March time. Everything just stopped. People stopped buying services. Pros stopped going out, and I think we didn't know how severe the virus was going to be, how severe the pandemic was going to be at the time. And very quickly thereafter, once people were in lockdown in their homes, demand just exploded very, very quickly. So demand for all the everyday services in people's homes really took off very, very rapidly. And it kind of makes sense, right? So you're not traveling, you're not going to bars, you're not going to restaurants, you're not going to your office. So you're just putting more pressure on your home. Everything from you're cooking more at home, you're using the bathroom more at home, you're just putting more and more stress on your home. And as a result, your home is breaking. Things are breaking at a higher rate. So there's more essential maintenance that needs to happen. The second thing we saw was, as people spent more time at home and it became clear this wasn't a couple of week thing, it was going to be a few months or perhaps longer, people started to invest in their home. So people say, hey, I'm not going to take a vacation this year. I'm actually going to spend most of my time in my own home. I'm going to invest in it and make it a little more comfortable for the next 6-12 months. And that we saw in terms of people investing in, particularly in their outdoor space, so their own private yard or their garden or whatever it may be, and people, really saying, hey, I'm going to make this a space that I'm going to spend a lot of time in over the next 6 months. And the last thing we've seen, which is increased demand, has been people moving to larger homes. So people have obviously left the cities over the last few months, particularly New York, Chicago, DC, etc. We've seen people migrate from downtown out into the suburbs. And as a result, just with more square feet, there's more demand for home service. And those three things together have really resulted in a pretty significant macro increase in service. And then you get into specific categories. So things like people getting their office, their home office set up. So that's everything from Wi-Fi installation to just, a little more soundproofing on doors around people's offices if they've got family or kids around. So people have really thought about like the macro and also the micro of what does it mean to work in a more remote way.
Yeah, that's great. And we saw some of that within our consumer research with people really going out and buying new devices in their home to aid in communications, and also really spending a lot more time with different communication services like they never had before, video chat and OTT services, keeping the kids busy. Can you tell us a little bit more about the expansion of your Google partnership? So our audience is very specifically interested in the growth of smart home devices and how these are getting to consumers, and then really what the installation looks like. So we'd love to hear more about this partnership and how that's unfolding.
Sure. So look, I think this category of people figuring out what the best way is to work at home has really accelerated smart home. So it's really accelerated the everything from people no longer thinking, hey, a single Wi-Fi router is acceptable. I'm going to need a mesh network, to people saying, hey, I actually just want more security around my home. I want better knowledge of people coming in and out. I want a smart lock. I want better knowledge of the temperature of my home. So all of the shift to spending more time at home has meant that people are investing more in like in the mechanics, I would say, of smart home. So year over year, we saw about a 450% growth in smart home installation requests in the months following the pandemic. So we don't see that kind of growth in other categories. Like that's not normal for us to see a 4.5x increase in requests by category. Similarly, we saw about 150% increase in computer network project requests. So again, it's really people taking, it's almost like people saying, hey, I need to recreate like a simpler version of what I had in my office at home. And that, I think, has come directly to Home Advisor, to Angie's List, to Angie, and also it comes through our partners. So as you said, Handy partners with Google's Nest, so that when you go and buy certain products on the G Store, we actually install those products. So you can request whether it's a Nest camera, you can add installation right there at point of sale. You can pick a time and date that you'd like the install to occur, and we dispatch somebody to go and actually carry out that work for the price that it says on the website. So it really is like a fixed price install where end to end you can buy the product and know that someone's going to show up and install it at the time that works for you.
Sure. Well, what about how you're reaching consumers to explain that you all have this service offering? So I think we see a lot of consumers going out and buying one or two, and then continuing to add on to their smart home device purchases. And so, how are you marketing your service to these consumers who might be buying emerging devices that don't necessarily need professional installation, but at the same time could um, very much be appealing to have that additional service there?
Look, I think very few people wake up one day and say, you know what I need to do? I need to go and buy a smart home. I need to smartify my home. That's not like a thing that people wake up and say. Instead, exactly as you said, this happens incrementally. So people say, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to go. I actually would really like a security camera at the front door, or I have a dead spot in the Wi-Fi in like 2 rooms of my home. I'm going to go figure out how to solve that problem. And because most homes don't go through a sudden shift of being like a regular home to being a smart home, it's about meeting the consumer where they're trying to solve this specific problem. So yes, there are a certain percentage, just to be clear on it, of homes that do go through that. And that's typically in the new build model where you're renovating an entire home or building a new home. People are making at that point a rather binary decision to say, all right, I'm going to invest in a lot of smart technology. And that's like a small but significant portion of the market. For everyone else, it's about meeting the consumer when they're having that need. So whether that's when they're in a store and they're buying a smart speaker, or they're online and they're looking for an individual to come and help them figure out, how to solve the Wi-Fi problem in 2 rooms of their home, or whether it's you're on the G Store and you're buying a Nest camera, whatever that specific problem that you're looking to solve, we want to be right there at point of sale. So the Handy brand is really about being right there at point of sale when you're trying to solve that problem. And you see that through some of the partnerships we've got with Walmart, Costco, Wayfair, and others, where whenever you're buying product, we're right there at point of sale to make sure that when you're buying the product, we can assist with it. On the other side of the house, of course, we are educating our consumers. So we're constantly in communication with our consumers, advising them on things they can do in their home. In those comms, of course, we're introducing the concept of different smart home products or different smart home ideas you can solve. But really, because consumers aren't thinking about a binary one-time switch, it is this incremental shift. It really is about meeting the consumer when they're having individual needs.
And what about the challenges when you get inside the home with, particularly around connectivity? So is that a big issue that you're seeing, the loss of connectivity? And then how do you all work to resolve those? Or is it necessary to, go back to the service provider or other means to find that solution?
Look, I think with any of these installs, with any of the services that we provide, whether it's a basic toilet installation, all the way back up to putting in complicated or sophisticated Wi-Fi networks in people's homes, from the full gambit, there's always going to be an element of uncertainty when the pro shows up to the home. So there's an element of, okay, we do everything we can to diagnose in advance, but when the pro shows up, there's at some percentage of the time, there's going to be unexpected behavior. So whether that means that the network connection's not strong enough, or there's not sufficient power, or whatever it may be, it's about how do we think about communicating to the customer what the issue is, figuring out how we can have a predetermined way to resolve it, and really working with the customer to say, all right, here are the issues, here's the baseline cost to go and resolve it, here's what we recommend doing, do you want us to go ahead? And look, we've got obviously a happiness guarantee with every single job that we take on. We've got a money back guarantee. So where we take on this work, we really want to make sure we're delivering an outcome that the customer is happy with. And in any business, there's going to be uncertainty. In the service business, there's ever more uncertainty, exactly as you said, because in every home, there's a unique set of circumstances. Because we've done millions and millions of these jobs, it's rare that we are surprised at this point in terms of what happens on the ground.
Well, and that professional on the other end plays that important role, especially for that happiness guarantee, which sounds great. So how are you all working to vet those professionals in terms of some of this newer technology and being able to resolve or identify what those problems are? Is there a specific professional that you're looking for, particularly as it relates to the technology in the home?
So when we onboard professionals, and we've onboarded tens of thousands of professionals onto the network, when we onboard professionals, we look at what are the basics that we need. So we got to make sure we got a background check, social security screen, bank account, all that fun stuff. After that, we get into what's the specific skill set that we're onboarding this professional for. And we go through on a category and task basis, what's the certification they've done, what's the training that they've done. We offer them access to materials provided by the manufacturer in some cases to continue to increase their skill level, modify their skill level. But we're always working to say, all right, what's the certification level the person already has? What does that mean they can take on within our task network? And then on top of that, we're saying, what's the certification level we can offer to the pro so they can always broaden that, so that we're obviously helping them broaden their base of business as well. So it really is on a task basis, on a certification basis, and we work very closely with the manufacturers to get that content down to the professionals.
Okay, great. And in terms of pricing out the jobs and those payments back out to professionals, is there a standardized way that you all have worked to develop pricing, or is that dependent on region, task, time, and maybe the type of professional skills that are helping
It sounds like you could run pricing.
there?
Exactly that. Look, we look at this exactly as you said, on a per task, per geo, per complexity goes into that. What goes into that is obviously amount of time, travel, distance, density of bookings in that area. And what we're looking to do is figure out how to be competitive for the customer. So how can we make sure that we're delivering a great experience to the customer at a price they're happy with, and making sure on the other side that we've got enough work for the pros so that they're happy with the price they're getting. So it really is balancing consumer demand and pro supply so that you're making sure the marketplace functions.
Sure. So that sounds like a tough job actually to have there. Well, let me close here with one final question to you, and we really appreciate your insights, particularly because we are strong believers that the setup and installation and support roles that consumers have play a really important role for future adoption of products. So that experience they have in getting things set up becomes important for future intentions. Where do you see this market for you going, the smart home device market going for you in the next 5 years, and the impact on your services?
Look, I think you're absolutely right on the setup being important. And if you think about why, it's because consumers don't really want to buy products. Like you rewind, 10, 15 years ago, people talked about the products that they had. People no longer talk about the products they have, people talk about the experiences they're having. And that's a crucial difference. So people talk about the experience they're having with a product, and setup is a really, really important part of the experience. The ease of setup, the ease of going from, hey, I want this thing to do X in my home, to actually having it working, that journey is a really important one. And if you think about if you think about the return windows on these things, they've exploded from 7 days to 30 days to 100 days of return time. So you don't just sell the product out the door as you once would, or sell the product into the person's home. You are actually now selling the product into the person's life. So until the person has embedded that product in their life, there's a good chance it's going to come back to you. So as a retailer, as a manufacturer, you've really got to work through how to bifurcate and split your customer base into people who can do it themselves, how to make that easy, people who can do it with some assistance, either remote or phone or whatever else, and people who actually the best solution for them is to partner with a professional installer so that you get past that point of potential return. And I think over the next few years, as devices become ever more interconnected and ever more complicated, the decisions you've made on the first few smart home devices you brought into your home, it actually matters because it impacts later device connectivity and what's going to work together in a seamless way. So I think over the next few years, we're going to see more and more complexity in the introduction of the 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th, nth device into someone's home, because the questions are going to arise around whether it connects to things you've previously bought and things that are not, it's one thing to have a Sonos that's plugged in, it's a whole other thing to have a smart lock that's bolted to your door and connected to your electricity. And the relative connectivity of these devices is going to become a really important factor in how people think about how far along the smart home spectrum they're going to go. So I think that's a trend that we're already starting to see. It's hey, will it work with the things I have, and which things will it work with, and what do I actually need to pull out in order to make it all work together? And that's technical, it's challenging, and it requires professional assistance.
Well, great. Well, thank you for those final thoughts. And Oisin, we really appreciate you being here with us today, and we'll look forward to talking with you again soon. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much. Be well. Take care.